This conference will now be recorded.
She'll I'll take my spot for a second. I'll stand up. They probably won't. Yeah, they'll want it.
Yeah, he's going to. All right, you ready? Clerk, please start the recording. Good to go. All right, thank you, clerk. Today is Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025, and I'd like to call today's joint work session of the Planning Commission to order. Tonight we do have a presentation. Actually, we should probably do a roll call for this one. I think I'd like to have a roll call. Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Councilmember Fox.
Present.
Councilmember Kasberg.
Present.
But late.
Councilmember Boyle.
Present on time.
Councilmember Leija.
Here.
Councilmember Cerveny.
Absent excused.
Mayor Strobin.
Present.
Commissioner Jones.
Jones.
Yes. Present.
Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Sorry.
Absent excused.
Commissioner Clark. Present. Chair McLean.
All right, thank you. Sorry I was loud here for a second. You forgot you weren't there for a minute.
Well, didn't hear clearly.
Hey, we're always up for loud. Yeah, you guys. All right, tonight we have a presentation. WSP will be presenting the draft code and comp plan update.
We're just trying to.
It looks like we've got Alec, Jody, and Marty tonight. You guys like the floor? More than welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, Planning Commission. Oh, yeah, there we go. Thank you, Mayor, Council, and Planning Commission. My name is Marty Snell. I started working at WSP in December of 2024. And you know Scott Kyler, who was the project manager for this particular endeavor. Scott's going to be retiring toward the end of May, so I'm going to be taking over as project manager. So I've had the privilege of working with Alec and Jody here and then your staff for this the comp plan update and the sub-area plans that we're here to speak to the Planning Commission and Council tonight. So we've got a slide deck kind of queued up here. For this evening's meeting, we want to speak with the Planning Commission and Council about two specific sub-areas, the downtown and Timmins Landing sub-area plans. With that comes some development regulations and an action plan. So next slide, please. We've got an agenda here. I know we only have an hour, so we kind of want to whip through the welcome and background. I'll turn it over to Alec and Jody on some of these other items here, but we have, again, we have about a 10-minute discussion on the code updates and 15 minutes on the sub-area plans, which includes the action plan that we'll want to touch on. So just to give you a sense of what this is about, we've got the visioning and outreach that started a couple of years ago that really tapped into the community for workshops and surveys, focus groups, the Citizen Advisory Committee, and they set kind of the tone for and the vision for the comp plan and these sub-area plans that we're going to be spending time with tonight. So these are kind of nested. So we have the comp plan. There's some analysis for existing conditions, land use, transportation, utilities, environmental conditions. And then we get to drafting of plans. So that's the conceptual planning arrow down. Again, we have two sub-area plans here tonight. And included in this will be implementation, which is the code amendments from Title 18 of your La Center Municipal Code. So those are the items that we're going to spend time with this evening, and I'm going to turn it over to Alec.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks again for the introduction, Marty, to this sub-area planning process. And
I'll be discussing the updates we're making to the comprehensive plan for the sub-area adoption, and then some draft code that we're proposing for the sub-area plans. So up on the screen here are the comprehensive plan updates we're proposing. We're essentially updating 4 elements of the current comprehensive plan as it stands. I know with the Planning Commission and Council, we've been actively updating the comprehensive plan for periodic updates. We are taking the current comp plan as it exists now and updating the sub areas, and then we'll roll these updates into the periodic update version of the comp plan at the end of the year. So kind of have to piece this outside of the periodic update process for this process right now. So the 4 elements we'll be touching on for the sub area plans are land use, transportation, economic development, and environment. For land use, the primary goal here with supporting policies for downtown is to concentrate mixed use density in the downtown core to support access to diverse housing opportunities, local shops, and town history. And in Tim and Landing, the main goal here with supporting policies is to create a residential community with higher density housing in the core and then lower density housing on the fringes of the Tim and Landing sub-area as you transition away from the Timon and La Cinta Roads core. And then for transportation, the main goal of supporting policies for downtown is to expand the existing road network to support the future residential, commercial, and mixed uses here and improve pedestrian, transit, and recreational access between downtown and outlying neighborhoods and East Fork, Lewis River. And then for Tim and Landing, essentially it's a similar goal and policy, but a focus on enhancing motorized vehicle access to regional job opportunities, since Tim and Landing's focused on La Cinta Road and Timon Road, which are the main transportation corridors in and out of the city. For economic development, these apply for both sub-areas. The goal here is to encourage a range of neighborhood retail, gateway hospitality, and office spaces in downtown, but also having neighborhood scaled commercial uses in Tim and Landing. And lastly, for environment, both downtown sub-areas and Tim and Landing are adjacent to some critical ecological resources around La Cinta, like East Fork, some streams in the La Cinta bottoms. So essentially, we're just adding a goal here to balance protecting these environmental sensitive areas and coordinating with different agencies, such as like Clark County Legacy Lands. Next slide. So diving into the code updates, the first bit of code we updated was for the low density residential district. And I'll be referring to this map on the right, which is the downtown sub area. So for the low density residential district, it's everywhere in the really light yellow here. We're allowing concessionaires. You'll see in the concept plans, there's a boardwalk that's also shown in this map here. And the idea is to have some concessionaires or shipping containers to support concessionaires such as recreational rentals, such as like paddleboard rentals, various shops and so forth. So essentially we would allow these in the low density residential zone, but only in the sub area. Any other low density residential zone want to allow concessionaires. For the medium density residential district, so everything in the darker yellow you see in the map to the right, it had a requirement of 2.5 acres for minimum project size. As you know, most of the lots in downtown are much smaller than 2.5 acres, so essentially you're hindering development with that existing code, so we eliminated that. But they're still subject to other minimum lot size requirements for medium density developments. And then also, I'll get to this further in the next slide, but there's a piece of non-residential developments that are allowed in the MDR zone. It's in a overlay. You kind of see it here in the center bottom of the map. There's a stippled or spotted area. It's the downtown gateway overlay, but I'll go more details of that in the next slide. And then the high density residential district is everywhere in orange you see on that map. This is a new district to allow for high density residential in downtown, but we'll also be applying this in Tim and Landing. And essentially this allows the same development standards for MDR 16 because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. It's an effective code that regulates design criteria, garages, pedestrian access, and so forth for medium density residential, so we're applying it to the high density residential. And it also permits the same residential uses, just at higher density. So it's MDR code times 2, essentially. So next slide, please. So this is for the commercial-oriented districts and overlays for downtown Intamin Landing. The downtown gateway overlay, which I alluded to in the previous slide, is a new overlay to allow for existing residential, hospitality, and commercial recreational uses. Again, if you look at the map in the top right, it's that area that's in yellow with spots. That's the downtown gateway overlay just south of the Fortune Casino there. And so this essentially allows these uses that are conducive with the proximity to the historic and the new downtown 2.0, but also being in close proximity to the card rooms and East Fork Blues River. For the downtown commercial zone, C1 zone, it's everywhere in red you see in that top right map. This zone is only going to be implemented in the historic and old portion of downtown. Essentially, what we're doing here is we are repealing the card room overlay that used to exist here, and we're allowing card rooms as a permitted use outright and just only in the historic downtown. This zone will not be implemented anywhere else in the city or downtown 2.0. So it's distinguishing between downtown 2.0 and historic downtown, while we're also pulling in some the downtown design guideline overlays to balance preserving the historic downtown, but also allow for some development, redevelopment opportunities. So we did some cleanup of code there. And then lastly, the Intamin Landing Neighborhood Commercial Overlay, or the TLNC. That map at the bottom right, you see the spotted area in the orange there. It's a new overlay to allow for community-oriented neighborhood skilled commercial uses. So you think of restaurants, diners, coffee shops, beauty salons, drive-throughs, so forth. Something smaller scale to support the higher density residential we're proposing here. And then next slide here. So again, on mixed use, we did a lot of code updates here. So essentially, we have the existing mixed-use code that is standing in Intamin Landing. As you know, Intamin Landing hasn't developed because this existing code is ineffective and is preventing development. So we repealed that whole code section. However, we are implementing a new downtown mixed-use code, and this is for the downtown 2.0 or downtown sub-area to create a pedestrian scale district. And this will balance the need for commercial and retail uses in the center, but also providing much needed housing with vertical mixed use structure. Vertical mixed use, again, is where the first floor of a building is dedicated for retail or commercial uses, and every floor above to residential uses. So this code will provide for that. And also, this downtown mixed use code will be oriented around the new plaza that's being proposed for downtown 2.0. Next slide, and this is my final slide on code updates, and we'll go into discussion. The Parks and Open Space Code, as it stands right now, it's supposed to function as a zoning regulation code, but more functions as a developments regulations for parks and open spaces and residential developments. So since that is not functioning as a zoning code, we repealed that code and are creating a new code section specific only to parks and open space regulations for residential developments. We didn't change anything in the code, just removed it and put in a new location. And then the next item, the urban public district. Anything on the parks or anything on the zoning map that shows as parks and open space, we're going to be rezoning as urban public district just to streamline the zoning in the zoning code and making sure the zoning code in the city's code matches what's on a map. So it's just making everything more consistent. So that's essentially what we did there. And then lastly, concessionaires, what we're allowing in the low density residential district, we're allowing those as limited uses. So they have specific criteria that they're subject to. And so these concessionaires have to be within half a mile of approved pedestrian access to the East Fork, but also only in the downtown sub area. They have maximum floor and height requirements. building standards, just subject to the building code, and then sign standards. Next slide. That's it for comprehensive plan and code updates we're proposing. Do you have any questions? And we have some questions proposed here as well. If these changes align with the vision and goals for the sub-area plans, and if there are any specific suggestions you may have for these. And I'll open up for discussion.
Thank you, Ellie. Appreciate it. Council commissioners, do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns they'd like to have amongst each other or even with the staff?
I have a question. Yes. On this minimum parking standards may be reduced up to 90% of required amount for commercial vertical mixed-use developments. What does that mean?
Councilmember Leija, it means, the other way to think of it is it could be reduced 10%. From 10 to 9. From like 100%. So if there's 100 or 10 parking spaces required, it could be reduced to 9 parking spaces.
Oh.
Yeah, it almost reads the other way around,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's a 10% reduction. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm just kind of talking to myself.
So with the C3 district on the downtown commercial, that is just being kind of redistricted to C1, is that how we do that, or?
Councilmember Boyle, so the C3 district as it stands is a small overlay only over the card rooms right now, and it restricts a lot of uses, pretty much any uses that don't support card rooms. So essentially we're removing that and allowing, now those card rooms are subject to the C1 standards. So it opens the door for other opportunities and other
So like if
redevelopment.
someone else came in and bought one of those spaces, they could put a different potential business.
Exactly. And then, but we're also outright allowed card rooms in the whole C1 zone, so they could build a card room somewhere else within the C1 zone.
Okay.
Where are other C1 zones in the city? Aren't there some up by the junctions?
Commissioner Chair McLean, so no, the only area that's zone C1 currently is downtown as it stands. Out by the junctions under the junction plan zoning, which allows commercial uses, but it's not a C1 zone.
And I do like the downtown sub-area plan, I like the concept. You talked about concessioners, like kayak related water activities. Where is that area located? How far from the water is it that's being planned?
So if we go back to the map, I think a few slides back, keep going. Yeah, right here. So there's a boardwalk. It's really hard to see in this map, but if you look at the far west next to East Fork Lewis River, there's a boardwalk coming from the plaza down to the river. So essentially, concessionaires have to be located within a half mile of that approved boardwalk or less.
So is that the brown part of it? I remember.
Yeah, it's the green right there is the pedestrian plaza, and then to the west there's a little brown trail that's the boardwalk.
So it'll be right close to the water.
Yep. So the idea is to allow them along the boardwalk or within close proximity to that boardwalk, just to incentivize foot traffic for those to support those concessionaires.
Are they going to use something similar, or is it something in the land around around the water park?
Can you repeat that question?
So if you're allowing concessionaires over by the downtown suburban, they also allowed near the Olive Water Park?
No, we wrote the code where they're only allowed within the downtown sub area and only within a half mile of the boardwalk, essentially.
Is there getting a lot of car traffic down there by the Olive Park? So I thought it might be a good idea to do something like that, where it's right close to the water and there's got a lot of traffic.
Yeah, and I thought currently we did have something where they could put kayaks and such down there already. So there's, yeah.
Like a rental area?
Yeah, that's why we did we had the vendors redone. Was that 2 years ago? 2 years ago.
Yeah, because there was a
We had a kid that wanted
kid that did do it last year.
Yeah, and That area is zoned under Parks and Open Space, so it would be under different zones. I think it's already covered.
Okay.
We can circle back and check, but I think it's already covered.
I think it'd be a good idea just to double check, just because we do have vendor spaces down there, right, at Pollard Park down there. And then I think there's like 2 or 3 there. And then up at the gravel lot there as well. And they're allowed to do that. We'd hate to lose that because, I mean, if you stop and think Sadie and Josie's Bakery started right there in the gravel lot.
Yeah.
Now they own that building. So I don't want to hamper anybody's ability to actually prosper.
Yeah, we
You're saying
can.
they would do where that current gravel is off of Pacific Highway or
Off
or
of-
Apollo?
Off of Pollock. So they got, where after you go down the big mountain, you drop off that cliff.
Yeah.
And get down to that parking lot. Yeah, there's 2 spots, if I remember right, that we had zoned for vendors 2 years ago.
So we might want to include it in the plans.
It'd just be good to double check it. I mean, if it's already there and we're not touching that, then it stays standing, right? But I just like to make sure that's still something that's policy.
We'll make sure it's included if it's not there.
Don't you also allow the vendors in that gravel lot that's off of Pacific Highway, just going out the town, other side of the bridge?
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, and the part that talks about the parks and open space would be redirected to the urban public district. Or is it, any lands currently zoned for open space will be rezoned to this designation for urban public district. So does that mean parks and open spaces all go away?
No, that's not the goal of that. So essentially, what's currently shown in the zoning map, there's a parks and open space zone, and this is for all parks and open spaces owned by the city. And the urban public district is also a dedicated zoning of spaces owned by the city. But if you go look at the code, it says parks and open space is a zone, but then you go look at the parks and open space section of the code, it has nothing to do with zoning. It's development regulations for residential developments to require them to have some parks and open space playgrounds. So we're just putting it all under urban public district, and they'll be subject to that code. Since these are city-owned facilities or parks, so they would just be subject to the same code standards as these other.
So we won't be losing parks.
No, we won't be losing any. And also it will also support implementing the Parks Recreation Open Space Plan that was adopted last year.
I am concerned with the reduction in parking spaces by 90%. I mean, by 10%, because, parking's so hard to find already throughout the city. Wondering if you really want to do that.
That's a valid question, and if you see the area in brown there, that's the only part of the city that would have that parking reduction, which is a very small part of the city. And also these are really small lots, so we're trying to reduce anything that impacts someone from developing. So if they have a lot of area they have to dedicate to parking, it might kill the project. And also the city is looking at feasibility of a parking garage to help support this type of development here.
Because my concern would be that we're actually trying to draw more people there, so why would we reduce the parking? And if we're looking for a parking garage, maybe it should be said, as long as you can reduce it as long as it's offset by a parking garage provided by the city or something like that. Maybe add that kind of wording so that we don't end up with the Zoom.
Yeah, you want to, okay. I was going to say something, but go for it.
Yeah, I'd like to give an example. So what this does is it kills the projects where a contractor wants to come in. You want to create development jobs. So what some contractors do, they get tricky with this. And they come in and they say, okay, we're going to build a four unit high structure. And the bottom we're going to say is commercial. And the top 3 is going to be residential. That isn't what we want. We want to have more jobs and residential as well. So what they do is they say, okay, because of the fact that we're having it all residential, but we're doing our commercial space, they say we don't have to fulfill the parking requirements. And we're saying, well, you're not able to do that because we want to make sure that and kill the project that says, here's all this residential. They just want to get residential builds because they get more money in their pocket versus a commercial space and the money that we want to bring in downtown. So by doing this, we say you can reduce it, but at the same time, we're not going to allow you to build all these residential, which they would normally be able to do. We also still have to have this commercial aspect. I know it's kind of weird to understand. You're thinking, well, you're reducing the parking, but by only saying by 10%, we're not allowing them to add all these residential units up above, which would be a 10% reduction. We actually wanted to more development commercial wise. We had this happen in other cities that I've worked with, and it's worked out really well. If you just keep it at a 10% reduction and no more. If you keep it at 100%, it's hard to find people to come in and develop. Is what I'm trying to say.
Right, and then piggyback off your statement there, Director Coleman, Director.
Oh.
You like that? FBI over there.
Mayor.
Yeah. I don't think I'd like to have the language in there change that the city would provide a parking lot, right? Because that might be a privateer company that comes in, kind of like down in downtown Vancouver there, and they start to build it and they charge for the parking. You know, where they're making money on it. Otherwise, it puts the responsibility on the city. Now, you know, some of the area down there we'd like to designate to start with a parking lot, right, and put it into phases. But once we add language in there that says the city's responsible for a parking garage or is going to be built by the city, I think that puts a lot of liability on us.
Well, what if we just take the city out to say it can be offset by the parking structure? And whether it's city or not.
Well, if you don't build the parking structure, then that 10% doesn't go into effect.
Right.
So now they're going to build these higher and more residential.
Realistically, how many parking spots are we actually talking about if we don't have this for 10% reduction? How many parking spots do we have available versus 10% reduction?
Right.
Using 10 parking spots or
Right.
doesn't seem like it's a large number.
Would something to try and help mitigate that, would this be a good time to discuss bring up the golf cart ordinance to reduce vehicle traffic in that area?
Yeah, that could be something as
You
well.
get 2 golf carts in a car spot.
Motorcycle.
Electric scooters, whatever.
Is there a place where the thought of designated parking area, is that on the map?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
I was just curious, is there already kind of in mind where a designated parking area would be?
Commissioner Jones, no, we don't have any idea where that may be, but we are allowing the use of a parking area, parking garage in this zone.
Okay. So it's allowed for, but right now there's not a specific place.
Yeah, we're, like Mr. Mayor just mentioned, it would allow potentially a private developer or private parking garage owner like in Vancouver to come in and develop wherever they see fit for that use.
What's an example of a city where that worked?
It's working in downtown Vancouver right now. Their parking garages are going crazy. They're filled. They started out with actually parking lots. They didn't have garages. And as they built more residential and commercial, those lots became fuller and fuller. And they decided that they needed to go up because back in the day, they had an ordinance in the city of Vancouver that didn't allow for buildings over a certain amount of stories. So they had to adjust some of their codes so they could build these parking garages. And now those parking garages, or that one down there is filled. Or last I heard, I think they were starting on another one.
Yeah.
So, but they did it in phases, kind of like what we would have to do here. And ours isn't going to be no 10 stories because we're not going to attract, 10-story buildings down there. Nor do we want 10-story buildings.
Yeah, but my point is I still don't have a parking.
But you've seen the size of the buildings and how much residential they built. Those apartments are huge down there. Yeah.
All right.
So if we're limiting by reducing the parking and we're limiting them from building that many residential, we're encouraging more commercial. Commercial is not overnight parking, right? You're going to be in and out, you're going to be doing that. And that lowers the amount of cars that are going to be there 20%.
What's that?
And conceptually, the mixed use code.
Hold 1 second. There, Commissioner Chairman, we got some conversations. Did you guys have something to add to that? Did I state something that was completely off my rocker?
No, you're stating it correct. Marty has a lot of experience in this in planning, and I wanted Marty to put his comments in.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the parking structure it would take a lot of development and a huge amount of study and analysis by any market to look at whether a parking structure in a smaller downtown is viable. When you look elsewhere, and the only times you see parking structures except for downtown Vancouver, are with medical facilities, hospitals, Legacy, Salmon Creek, those kinds of facilities. So parking structure is something that would be, I think, long and offing. As long as you have surface parking available, you know, the market's gonna tell you whether a parking structure is needed or not. So just a food for thought.
Sorry, Commissioner.
The 15 and 16 feet tall, how tall is that building? Like how many floors would a 60-foot be?
Well, I think when you're talking mixed use, you want a taller first floor, maybe 15 feet, and then you get the additional footage on top. So you might have a 4-story structure with the first floor being a little taller for any kind of mercantile or shop. But usually you're going to see 3-4 stories max. I'll be a timekeeper here too, if you don't mind.
That's all the questions I have.
I've got a question. Mayor, do you have any recollection, even prior to your time, has the city had some discussion at one point in purchasing perhaps a lot that would be designated as public parking? Has that something that has been discussed or brought up before, that in the zone we're talking about where the city would purchase a lot for the purpose of calling it public parking that might hold 40, 70, 80 cars or something of that nature? Has there been any discussion on that as far as you know?
There's been discussion amongst staff and us, but not as a council, no. And in the previous, I don't believe that there was any discussion about the actual parking that was purchased or going to be purchased. That'd be Councilor Cerveny would have much better recollection of that. But you know, I am not opposed to down the road or something that we look at purchasing some property and doing something along those lines. I'm definitely not opposed.
That's probably more feasible than talking about structure, parking structure.
Yeah, well, like I said before, it's going to be more of a phased approach.
Yeah.
Right. So, and like Marty was saying, the market's going to dictate that. Yeah. Right. So it'll dictate when it becomes a garage. Right. And then 5-story garage. Right. It's not going to be you or I, and it's probably not going to be in our lifetimes.
And my question is, when you're thinking of a parking lot level, are you thinking of for people to come and go, to come to the water and come to the shops, not to be there like for residential?
No, this would be for support the businesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would.
Or the businesses / recreation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we'll maybe move on. Is that all right with the council? And
Yeah, because that's definitely a future conversation. But this is just the zoning and timing part of it. Yeah.
okay, so I don't know where we left off here.
Alex was going past the ghosts.
Now we're on the sub
I
areas here.
actually did have 2 more questions. Sorry. For medium density, you said remove minimum project areas. What does that mean? And is medium density allowed elsewhere in the city to move impact like that? Sorry.
So Commissioner McLean, medium density residential does occur in the rest of the city, like these like Riverview apartments, Riverside subdivision. That's one instance of medium density. Currently in the code, it says for a medium density residential subdivision, the minimum project area has to be 2.5 acres. And that's applied across the whole city. Even outside of downtown, specifically in downtown, a lot of the parcels are smaller than 2.5 acres. So how can you develop with the code saying you can't develop with less than 2.5 acres? And then in a lot of areas outside of the city, there's parcels that are smaller than that as well. So we're just eliminating that, but there are some minimum lot sizes that they'll be subject to still. So that's the purpose of eliminating that.
Okay. And then also downtown commercial allowed for adjustments to the minimum sidewalk widths. So are you trying to make them smaller, even though we have more people in that area, or?
Can you repeat that again?
For downtown commercial C1, there was a comment about allowing for adjustments to the minimum sidewalk widths.
Yeah, that's for the sidewalks for historic downtown, because traditionally historic downtowns have wider sidewalks and wider frontage to create that pedestrian-oriented feel. but we're allowing the provision where it could be reduced upon city staff direction, and that's how we wrote the code.
So just allowing people to navigate the code rather than trying to make it smaller.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll pass off to Jody to talk about the sub-areas action plan.
Thanks, Alec. So now we're going into the actual sub-area plan. So
Jody, can you speak in the mic there just a little bit? Sorry. Maybe it's my
Right.
right now. Get harder.
how's that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. So now we're going to go through the sub-area plans. So that includes the plans themselves, go through the process of how these were formed. It gives more details to the concept plans. So those are all included in your meeting packet. And then within those, the implementation of these plans are the code and content updates that we just walked through. And then within the sub-area plans, we have the action plan. So those are some regulatory plans as well as infrastructure, parks, and community development projects that we're going to walk through that will implement the plans consistent with the vision that was established. So I'm going to try to run through these pretty quickly. So the first group of them, these are all planning and regulatory actions. So the first two, as Alec had mentioned, are adopting the sub-area plans into the comprehensive plan and updating the goals and policies to reference the sub-area visions. And then concurrently, we'll be updating or amending the zoning maps to include the proposed land uses, if that is approved from the concept plans, and making those amendments in the municipal code. Additional regulatory actions will be proposed are adopting the sewer collection and treatment master plan and the stormwater master plan. And that will be to help implement some of the facilities and public utilities needed for the planned growth in these areas. Additionally, our existing conditions analysis identified a need to potentially conduct archaeological predetermination level studies for areas that have not yet been investigated. And so doing those predetermination studies will help to remove barriers to future development, especially in timid landing. And then lastly, CEQA regulations will be updated to address the planned actions within the sub areas. I think we can move on to the next slide. So the projects here are all related to infrastructure. Again, these are improvements that will be needed to support the development over the next 20 years in these sub areas. So starting with the hydraulic analysis, that would be a complete review of the Clark Public Utilities water system plan to make sure that the demand estimates are aligned with the city's plan development. We've also recommended a fire flow analysis, so that's performing a detailed fire flow analysis to make sure that this system in place can actually meet the peak day demand. Additional work for the sewer system is to connect the existing septic system to Timid Landing to the city's sewer collection system. And then a couple actions related to the stormwater capacity. We have proposed a detention pond in downtown sub-area that will help mitigate any potential risks of residential developments. We also have proposing a new stormwater detention pond in Pollock Park, and I believe that's shown on the concept plan in Timid Landing. And then also making sure that new developments are complying with existing code, as there are no existing stormwater facilities in Timid Landing. We can go on to the next group. Continuing on with infrastructure, although these projects or implementation actions are more specific to the transportation system. So we've identified quite a few intersections here. I'm not going to read through exactly what they are, but these were identified from our transportation analysis, looking at existing intersections and how they are supporting the existing system and projecting out what the modifications will need to be in the future to support our trip generations that we are expecting from the future developments. So that will include some intersection improvements, two-lane approach system at the roundabout, signalizing intersections at Northwest Pacific Highway and West 5th Street, and also a signal at East 4th Street and East Cedar Avenue. We also have implementing new sidewalk facilities and bike facilities within the sub-area plans. A pretty big one is developing that pedestrian connection from Timoth Landing to the downtown area along the Center Road. And then also some new projects in the downtown sub-area. So that's the pedestrian plaza that Alec had mentioned, as well as that new boardwalk that would develop a new pedestrian path down to the waterfront from the downtown area. Moving on to our parks and trails projects. The first one is more regulatory. So that's updating the city's park recreation and open space comprehensive plan to incorporate the park and trail locations with the proposed sub-area plans, and then also coordinating the refinement of those locations as future developments occur. A couple of projects for Sternmuller Park, developing the sewer connections, and also for Pollock Park, constructing a new restroom and needed sewer connections to support more use at that park. And then two projects specific to the downtown area that would be within that downtown mixed use would be a potential museum or some kind of cultural center, and then also a playground within the new pedestrian plaza or potentially along the waterfront. And I believe this is the last group of them, is our natural resources and economic development actions. Performing a critical areas assessment for catalyst sites. Again, this is helping to identify potential barriers to development. And then the farmers market complex, that would be to develop a park within that pedestrian plaza to really help implement the vision of the downtown area, or downtown 2.0. And then, as we discussed earlier in this meeting, is the parking garage. Haven't quite identified where that would be at this point, but potentially up to 2 stories. Of course, this would be phased over time to allow for parking for downtown businesses or special events. And then lastly, constructing public art or a water feature in the pedestrian area to make that really like a place to go, or yeah, having that pedestrian engagement really shine there. So I talked through a lot. Any questions about these or any feedback that you have at this point we'd love to hear?
It's a lot of money.
It sure is.
And what does short term mean? Short, medium, or long term?
Yes, so it generally short term would be about within 3 years. Medium, I think, would be 6, so within the capital facility plan, and then long would be beyond 6 years within a different capital facility planning process.
Okay, I was thinking short meant 6 months.
Oh, no.
No, this is going Any other questions, concerns, comments, discussion between each other?
With the parking garage, was that information shared about that one that Lakeview Plaza where they have the parking garage with the commissioners and councilors that have the parking garage in the middle and they have the rest of the stores and restaurants around the outside of it, so you don't see the parking garage.
I don't even know at this point if everybody's seen it or read about it.
Anyway, that one might be an idea for this area, especially if we're short on land, is to do something like that. And I don't know if anybody's been to like Las Vegas where they have the Lakeview Plaza. I think they did a really good use of the land there. By building the structure, you can't see it from the outside because it's all stores and stuff, restaurants.
Right, and that, when we get to that point, that'll be a discussion where we'll probably have another joint session to cover those topics on the downtown when we start getting into more meat and potatoes of it. If there's no other discussions, or do you have another
sorry,
presentation?
One clarification. I had mentioned the stormwater pond. There actually is no stormwater pond in the downtown area. It would just be in Pollock Park, in Timoth Landing.
Thank you for the clarification. The time is 6:14, so we have about 15 minutes left.
Sorry, I was taking notes. So just over the next steps of the sub-area planning process. So we'll be going to the approval process probably in June. So upon approval, the red line versions of the materials we presented tonight will be included as attachments to the sub-area plans. And we'll be formally adopting these likely in June. We'll be notifying the county and Department of Commerce, but there'll also be a public comment period specifically to the draft EIS, the environmental impact statement we drafted for the sub-area planning effort. Our goal is to publish that next week. And so that'll be a 30-day comment period where anyone from the general public can comment on the sub-area plans EIS. And so once that's wrapped up, that's when we can enter adoption.
Is there going to be any sort of like open house for, because you said it's a 30-day public comment period?
Councilmember Boyle, there's no open house proposed, but there is, with the publication of the EIS, there'll be some material listed there, but also it'll have points of contact like Angie, and then it'll point you to the EIS itself on the city's website to access it.
If there are no further questions, I would have you guys updated the Planning Commission of everything that's taking place right now with the County Council? Have they been informed of everything that's going on?
No.
Okay. I would encourage you guys to stick with us during this council meeting because you are going to update the council on this, right?
Yes.
I think it's extremely important that you guys hear what's actually taking place in the county and the battle that we are in the middle of. I do apologize that you guys are not aware of it. This has been something that started 2 weeks ago on a Tuesday, and then went again last week. Wasn't that last week? Yeah, on a Tuesday as well at the county council meetings. There really hasn't been a ton of time to get word out to everybody, so I would encourage you guys to stay. This is really big and important for the city. Yeah, okay, that's good.
I just want to mention for the group here that when you see the code amendments, they'll be in a legislative format, so you'll see strike-throughs where things are going to be deleted and then underline where there's new language, just so you have an orientation of what that'll look like. And once it's all we'll get a clean copy to you upon your adoption.
And then did you guys, for that presentation tonight, we've got packets on it. If we can make sure the Planning Commission gets those same packets, the council's going to get, that would be great if they haven't already, just in case. I want to make sure that we're in collaboration with them, especially when it comes to this type of stuff. Okay, if there's no further questions, comments, concerns, conversation, I would like to propose that we do more of these joint sessions. I think they're actually healthy. They accomplish things, and it puts a little bit more collaborative thinking here on the dais. Agreed. Yeah. Stephanie, or Commissioner, sorry. What was it?
I thought she was.
Oh.
Well, I can't help but be curious because it was the first time I heard it tonight. What is the goal or benefit of changing the zoning for the casinos and allowing that to open up so that is that for new business to come in, and how does that work for the city as a benefit for the tiered taxation?
Commissioner Clark, so the goal, so the card rooms are currently under an overlay, C3 card room overlay, and it permits card rooms in that overlay and supporting uses, and that's it. It doesn't allow any other uses where those card rooms exist. Now removing that, it's open to any other uses that are permitted under the general commercial zone. So we're just removing that to allow for other uses to potentially occur where the card rooms are, but also allow card rooms in other areas and historic downtown.
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
It will also allow, because we added card rooms as a permitted use in historic downtown. So not only are we allowing card rooms where they currently stand, but also elsewhere in historic downtown if a developer wants to come in and build a card room. So we're not limiting uses of card rooms in that specific area, and we're also not we're also allowing other uses to come in where the card rooms are if someone else is to come in and choose to use it as something else that's allowed.
Thank you.
So it just opens the more opportunity for redevelopment downtown.
Was this something to do with when we had vacancies like during the pandemic and stuff? With anybody looking at any of those spaces?
I mean, we did do a market analysis, and it showed the impact of the vacancies there, and also the impact of card rooms. That just the industry's declined, especially with COVID, and post-COVID it hasn't recovered to what it was. And so a big pivotal piece of Downtown 2.0, or this downtown sub areas, was to find a new economic avenue for the city to be a viable city and continue to be prosperous. So.
Okay, I have one more question. So if there were to be a new card room that opened up down the street, obviously I have a vested interest. We all know that I'm an owner of the Lost Frontier and New Phoenix casinos. If there was to be opening of, space for new gaming, wouldn't that affect the city negatively because of the tiered taxation? So that's not really something that I would think you would want to open up for new casinos.
I don't think it hurt as far as the tiered taxation. What it's going to hurt is that there's going to be a spread of players, and it's going to get weaker, right, over that time period. And yeah, that's something that we'll have to look at if that ever happens. What would happen if you guys decided to sell the card room and it was going to a developer and they couldn't do anything because it was selling for card and they didn't want that, right? So it's kind of a double-edged sword, right, by not doing that. And what if it comes down to where the new downtown is booming? It's looking like Vancouver, but not as big, hopefully. And you guys are like, this is where it's happening. And there's a piece of property right there that I would like to have our casino overlooking the river there. And then we can sell our property here and have it developed, and we open up a casino over there, right? So that opens your opportunity, if that makes sense, right? Yeah. Otherwise, you're locked. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor, I've got a question regarding the availability of the card rooms and property that they currently own to build other establishments potentially there. Tax-wise, that would have to be worked out. That wouldn't necessarily fall under the same tax rules that we're using today for the casinos, correct?
I would assume so, unless they were coming in right now and that was part of it, right? They go, oh, no, we're falling under these. But I think any of that type of stuff would have to have a conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. That's something that's going to affect the city. Yeah, all the way around here. So you guys are important to us. Don't think you're not important to us. I don't want you to ever think that, because we do cherish you guys and we'll always back and stand behind you guys. But we also have to look at that future, right? If that future ever comes to where those aren't card rooms anymore and they need to be developed into something else, we should always be prepared for it. Yeah.
And I do understand, but nobody's going to pay the value of a card room and turn it into a grocery store. If we sell the card rooms, nobody's going to ever be able to, turn that into anything else that would bring in any revenue.
Well, I look at it in different aspects, Commissioner. I look at it in the aspect that if other gambling establishments go on at that Payable Day, is that going to hurt your guys' business enough, right? To where you guys are looking at it as a different stream of revenue that you might want an apartment complex there or something, because it might be different, a different look going into the future. This helps you in that matter, right? We don't know what the cards hold, and if anything, we should be open to all these ideas, especially after COVID, what it did. I mean, that really did hurt you guys and hurt the city. And if we can have some sort of pre-planned, zoning or something along those lines that will actually help with any type of economic resources, then we should be open-minded to it.
Thank you for the explanation. Sorry to take over.
You are important. Okay, the time is 6:23. Is there any other questions, comments, concerns, conversations? Okay, at this time, I would like to have the staff get with the commissioners so that we can plan another joint session, please, in the near future. And then I would like to call this work session closed. Thank you. If you can't stick around for the county council, or the city council, you can talk to WSP.
I think so. It's just the stand.
I think that might be a camera.
Yeah.
Is this a camera, Tracy? Is this a camera?
Yeah.
Not very small lens.
Well, it is because we used to have like stuff so. Yeah, it's their storage. Those are the original ones. I would get on that
I have.
I understand.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm on the meeting.
Clerk, please start the recording. Today is Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025, and I'd like to call tonight's City Council meeting to order. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's in here. So sorry. We're okay. I'll put on this. All right. I do want to apologize for the 2-minute late start. That isn't like us. I kind of lost track of time, so I apologize. Clerk, can we please get roll call?
Councilmember Fox,
Present.
Councilmember Kasberg,
Present.
Councilmember Boyle,
Present.
Councilmember Leija,
Present.
Councilmember Cerveny,
Absent, excused.
Mayor Sherman.
And I am here. Thank you. Okay. Clerk, can we please have any public comments from the audience?
Al Phillip.
Give him 2 minutes.
Al, 6016 Northwest Jennings Road. Okay. It was right in the middle of something. You guys interrupted me. Okay. Many years ago, I worked for a guy named Walt Elmer, and did talk to the chat with him, and he said, you've probably seen the names on, the name Elmer on the side of a building, well, that was Walt. So he had several of them in Clark County and Portland. Anyway, so what's the most important room? What's the most important area in the restaurant? And people would say this, the kitchen or the dining floor. Well, he maintained it was the restroom. You go in the restroom, and that, I walked in the restroom, said, and walked out. Anyway, so now get back to one thing I've been mentioning at city councils, mayors meetings, and whatever, the people down here, is the restroom in Holly Park, the male restroom. Anyway, I think it looks great right now. It looks just like jail. Those steel things that they just, almost brought tears to my eyes. But the thing I would like to see is a partition and a door between the toilet and the urinal. And then a little partition between the urinal and the sink. Now, I've been told many times over the last 7 or 8 years, in the next grant, they've gone through that. One got turned down, then we got another one. Well, they didn't include the restroom. Then this last one, we got, but no partitions. What that does is slows the progress of people going in the restroom, and you got a line out in front of the male. I'm used to seeing one. I don't know what the females looks like. I haven't opened that door and looked in. But you might want to look at females if you're bold. But anyway, could we get a partition there? For crying out loud. Okay. The First Amendment was working real good last night at the school board meeting. Democracy at work. Thank you. God bless America.
Thank you, Al. Director Coleman, can we look into that? I think it's something that we overlooked when we did the redesign, and I think it was overlooked before as well. And we weren't here when the last time he said something about that, so if we could take a look into that, it would be great. Clerk, any other public comments?
No other comments.
Dennis?
Yes. Dennis Hill, 1360 West Alder Place. I just want to again commend council and leadership for bringing the planning commission together, have a joint meeting tonight. I think that's important that we do that occasionally, particularly as we go in through the comprehensive plan. A lot of things going on, and I want to appreciate just shout out to those who came for both meetings tonight. I appreciate that. we always like to have folks out in the audience and so they can hear it firsthand on what's going on in the city. And again, I appreciate that and would encourage us to do more joint sessions as they're appropriate. They're not always necessary, but where appropriate, that we make that a priority. Thank you.
Definitely agree with you, Dennis. Thank you. Any other comments, Clerk? Call it.
No other comments.
All right. For those calling in, please press *6 to unmute yourself. State your name and address for the record. Do we have callers? Kimberly, you there? Kimberly?
Good evening. Yes, my phone wouldn't unmute. Hey, Kimberly Goheen Elvin. Good evening very much. So I'm hoping that people are listening to the Clark County Council meetings that go on each week. There's a lot going on that people don't know about through legislation. They have every Monday morning they'll have a 9 a.m. legislative update for Clark County residents, and we all live in Clark County, right? Also, I've asked for a couple of months that we have an open house and or a town hall meeting. I think it's nice to get people together and see if they do want a new downtown area, or if maybe they'd like to just have time spending time getting to know the thousands of residents that are here. I don't know anybody here. But I'm sitting outside right now and I see hundreds of cars going by, that's for sure. So I have had a busy 2 weeks, and I fully intended to file important information on our public comments there for the record. But I can ask the citizens to look up Clark County's council and the Board of Health submitted comments. They're very informative and give you a new outlook on what's actually really happening. I'm going to also mention that, and this is because I heard it on the radio again, it's been this way for a couple of years, that the men's sperm count across the world are down below 50%. Something's going on. I know that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Making America Healthy Again, is letting people know that all the candies and the corn syrups that you're eating with the colors and the dyes and the natural flavorings are all actually killing you day by day, little bit by little bit. Kind of like what I'm asking people to do is read about this stuff so you can educate yourself and discern what is really actually happening. So because I am against the growth, it's because we are lacking in water resources. People don't understand that and they don't get it. And frankly, cleaning the water with toxic chemicals is not a way to have clean water. I absolutely hope I never drink toilet to tap, even though I think I probably already have and people don't know it. I could mention a few places. I won't do that right now. But I've heard that Vancouver is actually not only recycling that water, but putting it into our wells. So people need to look into this. I can't do it all. And God bless everybody and have a great springtime. But let's make sure that we are looking at our resources.
Have a good night.
Thank you. We want our
Any
farmland.
other callers calling in, please press *6 to unmute yourself. State your name and address for the record. Clerk, are there any other callers?
No other callers with comments.
Okay. Clerk, are there any public comments to be read?
No public comments to be read.
Seeing now there is no more comments, I'm going to close that. We're going to go to the consent agenda. If there are no motions or no requests to have any items removed, can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Thank you, council. We have a lot on our agenda tonight, so I'm going to move rather quickly so that you guys can actually get home and hopefully see your families. We have an Arbor Day Proclamation, and I will be presenting the proclamation. I didn't even know that. I'm kidding, I got it. All right. City of Center Proclamation Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas the holiday called Arbor Day was first observed for the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, lower our heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase the property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Thomas Cerveny, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of La Center, do hereby proclaim that the city of La Center designates April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day. I urge all citizens to join to celebrate Arbor Day and support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant and care for trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. It is so proclaimed this 23rd day of April, 2025. Thank you. I need more trees, that's for sure. I planted one today and I didn't see. Al, you were not there. I needed you there. You're always my support.
Susie was gonna take my place.
Ah, Susie, you were not there. All right. Next up, we have the 2025 Comprehensive Plan Update presentation. And Alec, are you doing the presentation? Or
Yes.
Oh, Jody's not here. Okay. Alec, you're doing the presentation. All right. Alec, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I am here tonight to present on the 2025 Comprehensive Plan Update. Again, I'm Alec Agarola, planner with WSP. There has been some major updates from the county, specifically the Clark County Council on the land use alternatives. And I just want to give a brief overview of kind of what we've done to get to this point, and then essentially what's happened at the county, and then implications of what's happened at that meeting. So the next few slides I'll go over pretty briefly because we've gone over these before, but just refreshing, get a background basis of what's going on. So essentially, per state statute, the city must provide sufficient capacity for both jobs and housing, but also for affordable housing. So essentially, the county breaks it down by area median income, and anything below 80% area median income is dubbed affordable. As you all know, the state, but also the county and the city has an overall housing and affordable housing shortage, and we need to provide housing for all types of people, not just for everyday people, but also for young families, aging parents, and working class employees. Next slide, please. The county's role in this entire process, they adopted and assigned projected jobs and housing allocations. So essentially assign numbers through 2045 of housing and jobs to all of its cities. The center's allocations for 2045 exceeds the current capacity. So therefore the center must make different land use changes. So that's looking at rezoning within the city limits for expanding, combination of both, or other treatments. Next slide. Not going into too much detail here because this has been brought to you before, but if you go to that far right column, that negative 160, that's our current capacity for affordable units. So we have a deficit there. And then we have a surplus for market rate housing at 624 units. Next slide, please. Again, not going into too much detail here, but that bottom row there, we have an employment deficit from the 2045 allocations for assigned from the county. So we had a certain number assigned to us from the county, and now for growth through 2045, we have to do something with the city, with city limits to accommodate that 200 job deficit. Next slide, please. So up to this point, as you may recall, last fall, we went through the land use scenarios process, and the city selected scenario C, or land use alternative. Well, I will likely call that because that's what the county calls it. And I'll go over the map here in a minute, but with the preferred land use alternative selected by the city for housing needs, we are at a slight surplus for market rate and affordable housing. The next slide, please. The this is for employment. So for that preferred selected scenario or alternative that city council selected, we have a slight job surplus, which what we want to see to accommodate those allocations. If we go to the next map, next slide with this map, this is the scenario C that the city council selected at the meeting last fall, and we submitted this scenario to the county for assessing in their environmental impact statement. So just going over what occurred in this scenario is in areas 1 and 2, these are targeted rezones in the city, going from low density to medium density to accommodate that affordable housing component. But also that area 3 north of the junction, that's one area of proposed expansion. And this is a mixed use area, a 50-50 split between residential use, which would be for affordable housing likely, because it's higher density residential. And then the rest of the split would be for commercial use. And then area 4 is another projected expansion area that the city council moved forward with. And that's for industrial like uses down there. So light scale employment. And then it's important to note those areas 3 and 4, I have those circled for this conversation tonight because these are expansion areas we're proposing. And then another piece to note is the Cowlitz Trust land that's now within city limits. So next slide, please. So highlighting the importance of these expansion areas, this maintains the community vision. We went through a very extensive community engagement process with tabling, open houses, and other ways of community engagement through our website. And also we engaged city staff, but also the Planning Commission and City Council on what should we do to accommodate growth in the city. So this maintains the city's vision. Also the city's lands within the limits, city limits, and adjacent lands are encroached by the Cowlitz Trust lands. And this decreases the existing job capacity within the city. Also, the city needs additional lands to meet the affordable housing and jobs allocations from the county that they adopted and assigned to us. Also, these expansion areas are in close proximity to I-5, so this is most suitable for job generating uses, as this is high visibility and has access to this transportation corridor. Also, all these sites are site-specific requests submitted to the county with very significant owner support with legal support as well. And then lastly, an important piece here is no current or recent agricultural use is occurring on these properties. If I go into the next slide, this is the county council updates. So last fall, the city submitted our preferred land use alternative, that map I showed you earlier, which included expansions to the EGA and includes some properties within the urban reserve. In December 2024, the county council considered this scenario and ultimately moved forward with the city's land use alternatives for the EIS analysis. But the county council also directed staff to perform a resource land analysis because all these expansion areas we're looking at are ag designated, and we can't expand there until this resource land study is done to de-designate this from ag land to a different zoning accommodating urban growth. So the county council directed staff to perform this study. And then in April, there were some internal discussions with county staff and the county council to amend that resolution to do the resource land study and ultimately get rid of the study. And if we didn't have that study, that doesn't support the city's expansion requests out in this area. So after I believe 2 days of meetings and lots of deliberation and back and forth with the county, they ultimately decided to move forward with the study. However, the caveat here is the study is due in September 1st, which is very limited time to do the study. And B, if the study is done, and even if the study shows these properties aren't supporting ag, it still has to go through the county to be approved. So go to the next slide, please. This resource study also has to go through specific criteria through the WAC and has to be a county-led process. So essentially we have to rely on the county to do this study. It can't be city-led. It specifically stipulates in the state law that it has to be a county-led study. So again, if these properties are not meeting the criteria to de-designate to something else, then we can't expand out there.
So is it our role to initiate this process, or?
The county is doing the process now. And the resource land study is going to be done, but has to be done by September 1st. But at that point, that's when we find out if the study A says these lands are or are not resource lands, and B, even if they're not resource lands found in the study, the county has to approve it. And basically, if they don't approve it, or the study doesn't find these lands are not, or if these still are resource lands, we have to go through this whole process again that we did this last year.
Just to give you a little bit of an understanding of what's happening here, Councilmember Boyle. The county said that they will do the study in December. We all moved forward with our decisions. Remember the ABC choices, we did the choice. The county came back at the last minute, literally 2 weeks ago, and said, oh, we don't want to do this, right? The implications is that if it's not done, the study doesn't get done, the lands don't get rezoned or redone, we don't meet our comp plan in time. So now we're what do you call it? We're not illegal, but
not compliant.
Non-compliant. Yeah, we're not compliant. And the money's already been spent to do this comp plan. So where do we start? Do we start back over? Such like that. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, that's okay.
I just wanted to do that. And Tracy, if you've got more that you want to throw at them, please do, because you explained it very well as well.
I mean, sorry, maybe you'll explain this, but so how do we hold them accountable?
I would like to let Alec complete his presentation, and then I would like to give a couple comments if we don't mind.
I just have one more slide. It was kind of getting at what Mr. Mayor was saying. So go to the next slide. So the county council was expressed amongst their deliberation. They're saying, well, the cities could look at other areas to expand. And essentially what boils down to, the center doesn't really have anywhere else to expand because we looked everywhere else. And especially we're not looking north the center because we have all that traffic coming back through the bridge. And so this is the best area for supporting infrastructure and proximity to I-5. But so they're throwing around this idea that the center maybe should look around elsewhere. We already have. That's why we went through this whole process and this whole study. And also holding them accountable, the city staff and Mr. Mayor were there along with Richfield, because this is also impacting Richfield. So both cities were there in the meeting to kind of hold the county council accountable for needing to do the study still. And so that worked, but there's still some uncertainty with this study because the county expresses we need a lot of time to do this, but also they still could do the study and we still could be in the same pickle, because if the study doesn't say or doesn't support removing the ag land designation on it, then we can't expand. Or there's the B, the study could say remove the ag land, but the county council still has to approve that. So the onus is always on the county, unfortunately, but we have to put the pressure on the county to make sure this is done and just prove to them with all the study. Each property owner had performed their own study on the property showing that this does not support ag. So I think also coalescing all of that together with all the properties will help put the responsibility on the county to show, hey, we did the studies ourselves and we need to expand. And also another piece of this, several of those properties are in urban reserve, and the purpose of the urban reserve is to expand for urbanization. And Marty and I were looking at maps, and most of the properties have been sitting in urban reserve since the inception of the GMA, which was in 1994. So all these properties have been sitting there for 30 plus years waiting to urbanize, and they can't because they have this ag designation. And so we just wanted to bring this forth tonight to show what's going on at the county and the responsibility of city staff, but as city representatives, of showing up to advocate for the city and the city's vision, because we don't want to go back to the drawing board. And the county staff, to put it bluntly, essentially didn't care what Lucinda or Richfield was wanting. So, and they didn't want to do the study. So the county council actually had to direct staff to do this. So again, that's our purpose here tonight, is to just highlight the importance of what's going on at the county and just inform you. Next steps, essentially, we have to wait out for this resource land study. and that's going to be September. But it could be September, it could be a pretty picture for the center, or be the opposite. We don't know. So we have to kind of be prepared for that ultimately, but we're hoping we don't have to go back to the drawing board. But one last piece I want to share is the county council floated the idea of having a joint work session with La Center and Richfield, just to get a better understanding of where they're coming from. Because La Center and Richfield are both in the same issue, have the same issue. And I think part of the county council members, a few of them, want to understand better what perspective we have on this process. So they haven't really communicated much more than that, but I know Richfield and I know the center's interested in this joint work session. So there might need to be some sort of communication with county, but expect maybe a joint work session in the near future on this topic.
Would it be helpful if we reached out at all? Notes or set up the.
I think if we keep a focal point, one voice going towards it, I think that would be best. I do want the council to understand that the vote last Tuesday was ugly. That vote took what, 4 hours?
Took a long time.
Yep. Angie has spent 2 full days at county council meeting, right? And sat there and held the center seat. So I do want to thank you, Angie. You've done remarkable. Tracy was online, participating in the meeting the entire time as well. The county council could not make up their mind. Councilor Young kept going back and forth. Councilor Little was in support of it. Councilor Fuentes was not at all, and neither was our own district representative, Councilor Marshall, Chair Marshall. She was not in favor of it at all. This can be a very uphill battle, just so you guys know. It does put the center in a very sticky situation and spot. So we'll definitely be in communication with council and updates and opinions and such, right? Conversation along with the planning commission too. Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure the planning commission is fully aware of this because this is a big.
And it timed right after a meeting because it really came out of nowhere.
Right.
It really did.
Yeah. But like I said, the 11th hour.
Yeah.
They did this. And they don't care what the cost is. They don't care the repercussions. They don't care about the commitment they made in December to do this. They didn't start it because they didn't want to.
What's their main objections?
Well, I can tell you that some of the councilors didn't care for. Actually, you know what, Angie? Would you like to speak on that?
Yeah, like.
She doesn't get to speak for hours, so.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you, council. So one of their main objections was that they don't understand exactly what predicament the center is in, and that we need the job lands, and they weren't really receptive to listening to what we were needing when we pointed that out.
And something they kept going back to was it was a timing and budget issue. That's always what they kind of kept going back to is the timing and budget issue.
Well, and there was also the perspective that some of them just don't support taking any type of ag land out of ag land at all. And there's 2 of them on the council that do not believe it.
Yep.
So this is going to be a fight.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like Alec to also talk about why it's important for us to adopt the sub-area plan and what the importance of that is because of what we're running into. So I want you to address that.
Yeah, the importance of the sub-area plan is to get that adopted into the current comprehensive plan so we can get grant funding as soon as possible before the comp plan might get held up because of this whole county level process, because we're relying on the county's EIS and county level processes to adopt our comprehensive plan. So once we get the sub-area plans adopted, we can start getting the grant funding for that before there's any sort of hold up with the comp plan down the road. Because if your comp plan isn't compliant, you're not eligible for grant funds, the state. So it's a big contentious item. This comp.
Is our city attorney following this closely?
Yes.
I guess my concern is that, well, Clark County is famous for paying significant amounts of money for studies and then not doing anything with the result, whether they don't like the message that they got or whatever the case may be. The results of a study can be completely irrelevant. And so even if they do go through with this study that's supposed to be done by September, I don't have the confidence that they're going to listen to the results of it. I think they make up their mind ahead of time and go. So, I think at this point that if we write, both on behalf of the planning commission and the city council, write resolutions so that we can present those in a formal manner, not just our verbal support in a joint work session, but if we have something on paper that we can present. And then, the issue that I have with the whole Growth Management Act is they tell us we have to meet certain numbers and we pay out of our pocket to do that. And I learned that we do get some of the growth management costs back, but I don't know that it's quite enough. But it's 2 years worth of our staff's work that we won't get back. We won't get that money back. We won't get that time back. And then we're not able to meet these made up standards that the state has come up with or that the county has come up with. And I think it's time to make some noise and make sure that the county council has to hear what we are saying.
This is why I love this council. The same page. We are all thinking alike. Every one of us up here. I agree with you, Councilor. I think we do need to make noise. I think, I like the idea of the resolution. I like the idea of the joint workshop. But if it comes down to it, there's going to be legal matters, right?
Well, that's why
we've already discussed that, and we're fully prepared.
Okay.
But it will come back to you guys as well, just so you know.
Good. I did have a question on part of the presentation, back a couple of slides. And I don't know, but I'm suspicious that this might have something to do with the maybe the decision that the county made, or at least a part of whether or not we're able to comply. I'm trying to go back and find it here. Go back to the importance of expansion areas slide. So the second bullet point there, I guess I don't like that terminology, encroached by Cowlitz Trust lands. We signed the agreement and invited them. That wasn't something that they had pushed on us or forced us to do. We as a council agreed to that. And then how does that decrease existing job capacity when I think the Cowlitz tribe is a huge employer. It does not just hire tribal members, it does hire people from the community. And I don't think that it's right that if that is a trust land where we have made an agreement with the tribe, that all of a sudden, those jobs in that area don't count for anything.
Yeah, Councilmember Kasberg, I agree. Encroach might have been a strong verb to use there, but our point is, so tribal trust lands, or tribal lands aren't subject to local regulations. They can kind of do whatever they want, which the city has agreed with them to have that joint agreement. But since we can't control with our zoning ordinance what they develop there, we can't account for those lands for our job capacity. So that's why we deducted it from our current capacity for job lands, because they can essentially do what they want. That's a federal tribal treaty law. Essentially, they can bypass local laws and local zoning ordinances. So again, and the word encroached was used because there's LNA, so we can't really expand that way and accommodate those lands, and now they're within city limits. So we have the issue of decreased capacity because they have their lands within the city limits, but we are also limited in areas to expand because they have all that trust land to the west. So that's why we went more southwest to kind of avoid and accommodate that deficit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to interrupt you real quick, Councilor. I agree with the Councilor, and I'm not going to ask. I'm just going to say that word has to be removed. These are our friends. We did the deal. We cannot use that with our friends.
I'd like to make a comment, Mayor. While I agree that we could change the wording, I believe the point that was trying to be made here is that we went in good faith to the county with our scenarios. And we went into good faith with the Cowlitz tribe for them to be able to take that land and do what they want with that. That's fine. But what happened is after we've done this deal with the Cowlitz tribe, because we didn't have any concern, because we already knew that Cowlitz County was going to do the planning study, and we already knew that we had 3 scenarios that would surpass what we needed based on allowing and working with Cowlitz County to have those lands. We had no concerns. We had no concerns at all because we still had land to do with what we wanted. But now because of the fact that Clark County has come back and stated that, guess what? You don't get these scenarios. You're going to have to go back to the drawing board. Now we don't have that land to utilize because we already did an agreement with the tribe. So that's what we're trying to get at with that is, had we known that we wouldn't be able to do that and Clark County came to us and said, sorry, we're not going to let you take these farmlands and these resource lands, you have to use other lands. We could have used something else and we would have known that prior to making a decision with the Cowlitz tribe. That's what we're trying to say.
And I understand that, and I respect that. And what
wasn't
I'm
sure if
saying-
everybody else knew the reason behind that. So
Yeah,
thank you.
and I guess my point is that was our risk to take, and we agreed to it, and I would be, well, I think some of this other things that are happening may be retaliatory because of that agreement that we made, and so as far as I'm concerned, that still can count. And if they don't like it, then they don't like it. But that's why we have to fight for what we've done in our community. They're not the ones that are up here. They haven't been trying to be good neighbors. And we took the risk. So far, everything has worked out. If it comes back to bite us, then that needs to be an issue between us and the tribe, not what somebody else or some other government agency is trying to tell us. So I say strike it. Put those numbers in the books, and if they don't like it, then I don't know what we'll do. But that's where
But we can't use that. It's not sovereign land. It's not city land at all.
Yes, I agree. I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. But I think that not allowing us to move beyond that,
right,
because of that, is what isn't right.
I don't think it's just because of that. I think it's the councilors or the county just doesn't want to pay for the studies. I think they wasted too much time. They waited way too long at the beginning of that. They're giving themselves until September 1st to actually start to be completed. I don't know what type of study that's going to be able to do the entire agricultural land in Clark County and be done before September 1st. So to me, I think it's a tall tale that they're even doing that or even saying that. I know that I want to tread lightly on some of this because we do need a work session with them because we do need to show them and not even convince but prove that this is the right way. And we did our due diligence. It wasn't just something that we threw a dart on the board and said, hey, we want to build here. They're the ones that are dictating what we have for resources, right? They're the ones saying you're going to have this many jobs and you're going to have this many housing. And it's not us, right? And you've got to meet these demands. So I think it's up to us as a council, as a city, as a mayor, and as a staff to work with the county during some of these work sessions and make them understand this is it, right? Because we need to stay in compliance. We need to be able to get these grants we need to continue. Without grants, we're not getting our roads done. Without grants, we're not building or repairing anything that are large scale projects. So I encourage the staff and myself, I'll reach out and see if we've got any word back on when they want to do this work session. I think the time is now. I don't think that we should delay on this work session, because the longer it delays, the worse off we get, right? If you guys would have seen, or go back and look at the county council meeting for last Tuesday, you will be astounded at how much back and forth went on during this meeting. It was the most time consuming, I want to say some very derogatory terms, but I'm just not going to, because I don't want to waste my breath on it, that they went back and forth on, and then finally came up with the decision to do a work session and support the study. You know, but it had to be done by a certain date of September 1st, which to me is unreachable. Sure. Right. Please.
One thing I want to add is they agreed to do a part of the study, not the full study.
Okay.
They agreed to pick out 2 sections. Go ahead.
For the study, so the resource lands study is traditionally all resource lands. So that's your ag lands, forest lands, and mineral lands. The study is only ag land specific. Right. So it dwindles it down, but
it's ag land for the entire county.
For the entire county.
Yeah, that was because of the Chalatchi Prairie stuff that was going on, so they wanted to take that out. Yeah, right. Totally got that. But it's still a huge study, a task study to complete by September 1st. That's monstrous.
Right, and they reluctantly agreed to do that because council voted it, as we shared, that the management staff did not have the man hours nor the time to do that. So that was one thing. The other thing I want to share is that one of the items that is that only the 2 cities that were affected were Ridgefield and La Center by these resource lands that we wanted to bring into the urban growth boundary. And we do have full support from these resource land owners and their legal counsel. And when they came back and decided to do this study, the county said, we don't think it's important just to have a meeting with Ridgefield and La Center, who were the only 2 cities who were affected by this. We said, we want to involve all the cities who didn't have an effect. So trying to get all these cities together to come in and give their feedback versus just the 2 that were affected. We tried to bring that to their attention in the last 2 meetings, that we believe you need to have a meeting with just the 2 of us because we're the ones who were affected by it. So they didn't agree to do that. They wanted to bring all the cities in to go over the requests for qualifications, so on and so forth, before they put that out. But I will share that on May 1st, I believe it's at 10 a.m., there is another council meeting. So if that's something that the council members would like to put something together and be present there at that meeting and speak, you'd have to do that ahead.
Yeah, it would be great, council members there. I will, I know that each one of you guys have jobs and you have lots going on in your life. I completely understand. Ridgefield did have quite a few of their councilors there. Most of them are retired, so they were able to attend that. It's an aggravating situation. Tracy or Alec, do we have a budget of what we've already spent on the comp plan?
Oh, I absolutely do. I'm bringing that forward tonight when I'm talking about, but I want to give a clarification, and you just gave me a clarification, is May 1st is a meeting that we're having with all the cities in Clark County. I apologize for that. So, yeah. But I have that in the presentation tonight for one of my items.
Okay, so I'll just hold on. So, Alec, what are you looking for from the council tonight?
I think what our goal was here was just to get a consensus of where the council's at, how they feel about this latest update from the county, and also if county council or the city council is amenable to have that joint work session with the county and Ridgefield. I think that's what we're looking for at this point, and I think we got the answer. So
I think it's imperative that we get that. So. No question.
Okay.
But this is mostly informational, just to keep you up to speed what's going on.
I know this is out of the ordinary and very unusual, and they're not sitting up at the dais, but we still have 3 members from the planning commission here. I'd like your guys' opinion on this as well, if possible. And if Diana, Commissioner McLean, if you're dialing in, I'd like to hear from you as well. You did press *6 to unmute yourself to speak. If any of you guys have anything you'd like to add to this frustrating situation, I would appreciate it.
Our representative.
As a member, again, I appreciate Tracy, you being deeply involved in this, and Alec as well, and Mary, you being there at the meeting, bringing that back to us firsthand. Appreciate that. One of the things that was shared with me is I want to share something else with regards to the words. Instead of encroached, maybe the word impacted would be a consideration. Impacted rather than encroached. A little softer, but again, I think the same message there. It does impact and has impacted us. Obviously, the city has been involved for a number of years when we've done updates of the comp plan, and we're talking about UGA. We've been always, part of our discussion always centers around the fact of increasing our UGA. And how do we do that? Always comes back, well, we don't have a say-so. That's the county. But again, as was stated here, I think, as Casey shared, we should probably go online, at least on the record, in writing, and present that to them, a copy to each of the counselors that says this is why we want to do this. This is not just it's not a political thing. It's a survival for us, and for us also to meet the obligations that we have been set forth by the state. We're trying to accommodate, following the rules from the state on what we're supposed to do with regards to about employment and all of that. And so, I would encourage the city to really consider putting together something formally to address this subject. And I believe that the county commissioners could stand up there and say the same thing, but I think that we're definitely in total agreement with what your plan is and what you want to do and why you're doing it.
Okay. Well, I thank you for stepping up to talk about that, Commissioner. I think it's important that we are in collaboration with you guys, especially during the conflict.
Hi, this is Dinah McLean too.
There we go. Dinah, can you speak up just a little bit, or can we turn her up? Okay, there we go. Sorry,
Can you
go
hear
ahead.
me? Can you hear me? Yeah, no, I'm just done in hearing this, and so no, I definitely want to join the meetings with Ridgefield and think about different proposals that we could present to remedy the issue. Because wow.
Okay. Yeah. Agreed. Thank you very much, Council. So I think you've given directions for Alec and staff to move forward with the joint meetings. I will conversate with the city attorney to see what type of resolution, if there's any type of motions that we can actually bring forward for support. A letter of support from each of you, or a joint letter would be something that would be good as well.
I think we should write our own. I think we should all each write one. So, I mean, planning commission and all of us. That way they have all the paper. You just give them one, I mean, they'll sign it, just have a cheat team.
But when they read them all.
Well, it doesn't matter, it's the power.
One's a lot easier
to read.
A resolution is a unified document. So, I mean, in my opinion, yeah, we could all individually speak our opinions, but like.
Oh, sure, I see what you're saying, yeah.
As a council and a big commission, we could have our resolution.
Oh, sure, yeah, I understand.
Tracy, you had something to add to that conversation as well?
I like Councilmember Fox's idea because of the other city representation, and they came out in mass force, Ridgefield mass force, every councilor, citizens, landowners that are farm owners. I think it's better more than one resolution. That's my personal opinion. I do believe that we can put something together, a bullet point that's very simple to outline the items that you want to address, and then you can say it in your own words. So we can give you a one-page document that says, here are the issues at hand, and you can write what you're most passionate about on that. But whichever way council wants to go, resolution, we can do that as well, whatever you guys decide.
So writing a letter is all well and good. Reading that letter in front of council on record is even better. I will let you know. These meetings are long. Yeah, they're very long.
This is on Thursday the 1st, right? May 1st, or you're talking about?
They're usually Tuesdays. I thought
They
it
are
was Tuesday
Tuesday
at 10.
10. And the nice thing is Angie has been going to these meetings, and so she's been signing up ahead of time. So we can sign anybody who wants to go up ahead of time, and then you show up and you talk at the very beginning.
I'm assuming it's better for all of us to go on the same meeting.
It looks like there's solidarity there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and if the planning commission wants to join us on that, I think that would be a good thing as well. Planning commission reading off some of the stuff as well. I think that.
So they last like 4 or 5 hours as opposed to
Oh no.
all day.
No, it's
It's an all day. So yeah.
You do not have to stay there all day. If you come in and read your public comment, you're more than welcome to take off.
Yeah, just to add, you have 3 minutes of public comments, and so the public comment period could be long because it could be several people there. But the power is you have your 3 minutes,
and don't let city staff write it for you because you'll be out of breath by the time you get there.
That's my apologies.
Oh, thanks, Alex.
Planners are long-winded. So.
No, that's good. That's good. So is that something that we're okay to push forward?
Yeah.
Okay. Then city staff, if we could be in contact with each one of the councilors and commissioners about the steps to make this happen, I think that'd be great. Okay.
Yep.
Ali, thank you very much for the wonderful news, right? Sorry you had to be the bearer of it.
That's my job, is to work us through this land use planning process, and this comprehensive plan is very contentious, always is, and we'll figure it out as we go through it. So thank you, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
And we know that we're all on the same team here, so there wasn't any criticism towards you or staff of any type. It was just some frustration with the county and the GMA in general.
Oh, there's a lot of frustration right now. Guaranteed. Thank you again, Ellen.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jody, as well. Okay. Next up, we have staff reports, or I'm sorry, council comments. I think, and it's now. No, I'm going to make the announcement real quick. That's why I was just going to let you know that I'm not going to be doing a comment tonight in regards to the amount of time it is already in the amount of stuff we have left back on this agenda. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep my mouth closed at that point, and I'm going to turn this over to the attorney. Janine, are you with us tonight?
I am with you tonight, but I do not have a report, so happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the city attorney?
Thank you.
Thank you, Janine.
I will note, we, in light of the conversation you all just had, we have had discussions about what the city's options are, and we will be bringing those to you at a different time.
Yes. Yeah, we're not taking everything off the table, just so you guys know. Yeah, there's options and other stuff that we're looking at. Okay. Thank you, Janine. I appreciate it. Next up, council comments, Councilmember Fox.
Good evening. I'm just going to keep it short because we have a lot to get through, but I just want to say I'm really proud of our team that we have here, commission side and council members, and obviously all the staff that work here and on a daily basis for the people that live here. Just appreciate it. It's exciting to be a part of this expansion. I guess one of my questions is kind of a small thing that came up with some of that growth in downtown. I was just curious, is there any ideas about potentially moving the bus station? I mean, it's not a huge thing. I was just curious if you guys thought.
Down the road.
Yeah. Okay, maybe more downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Nothing static, right? I mean,
yeah, of course.
It moves in the market.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. Yeah, different options with that, but yeah, other than that, that's all I got.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Kasberg. I didn't mean to get you off.
No, that's all I got.
Councilmember Kasberg.
No, thanks for coming, everybody, and I will keep this short as well.
Perfect. Councilmember Boyle.
Good evening, everyone. I think we've had a few dynamic weeks here in the city and the school district as well, and I just want to thank everybody that comes out to support, our peers, and it's really great that we are the community that we are. One note, and don't quote me verbatim, but I went to a C-Tran board retreat yesterday, and they said that our new bus stop being installed, we've seen 70% growth in ridership since last year, which is pretty awesome. So it is getting used. It's not,
70% from zero.
Right, okay, the ridership. There's other forms of transportation in the city since last year. So it does sound right, but it's 70% of what the previous ridership was that was being used by the other forms of transportation. So, okay. Anyways, other than that, that's all I have tonight.
Wow. All right. Thank you, Councilmember Boyle. Actually, there is a question I would like to address to you. If you can explain to the residents the vote. How did the vote go last meeting? Because I don't think
there was no vote. It was tabled until July.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. If anybody has any questions for C-Tran, please see Councilmember Boyle afterwards. Councilmember Leija.
Well, last Saturday, beautiful sunny day that was, we had Lions Club Easter breakfast, which I wasn't able to attend. But we also had the 10th anniversary of Claudia's Hair Salon up on Aspen, and she had a really nice spread of food and a nice, a lot of people came for that. So I thought that was very nice that they honored Claudia for that. And then in the afternoon, I visited the museum, and so I try to promote that because we have a really awesome museum and people that really put the work into that museum. Open on Saturdays, certain Saturdays. Also, I want to say that, yes, I attended the Center School Board meeting last night and spoke, and I think it's so important, and I'm so happy that our council does support our school and Peter Rosenkrantz and just that whole school board and what they're trying to do for our children in the center. And this Saturday is the Greater Vancouver Chamber of Commerce is putting on the National Civic Bee, which I attended last year. It's very, very cool. This year it's going to be from 10 to noon at Keegan's Theater downtown. So it's really fun to see these middle school kids get up there and answer these civic questions, and I go there and I learn from that. So thank you for those of you that came tonight, and hope you have a good rest of your week.
Thank you. You're right.
Can I say one more thing? I wanted to put it out there. Mayor Strogan and Superintendent Rosenkrantz were this week a podcast was released. Rooted with James O'Neill. It's on Spotify if you'd like to go check it out. It was pretty awesome interview if I would say for myself, but it was very candid and very up to speed with everything that's going on in the city, and I thought they both did a great job.
Can we strike that from the record?
Okay, where can we find that?
It's on Spotify. Okay, I'm going to pound the gavel. All right, we do have staff reports tonight. And it wasn't good time. And Pete and I cooked 30 pounds of bacon at the center.
Oh my goodness.
We were the bacon kings. You know. We do have beautiful day. We do have staff reports tonight. Police staff report. Commander Bill Sample will be presenting. Commander.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you very much. This is our March staff reports here. If we look at our charts right here, from March 2024 to 2025, we've had a very good increase in our services and our responses. If we look at the community initiated responses for 24 was 126, as deputy initiated was 41. Back in 24, though, we were only working with 2 deputies at the time, myself at the precinct, as opposed to 2025, we were fully staffed. And you can notice the increase in our numbers for deputy initiated activity from 41 to 127. It's a pretty good increase. For March 2025, the community initiated for was 105 with 127 deputy initiated, up to 232 total, as opposed to 167 from last year. I think we're going in a good direction. We are trying to target areas of concern and look at the such things as 14th Avenue down by the schools and other areas of the city right here. So keep calling in, keep giving us where you want us to be, what your problems are, and we will look into them as we can. Next slide. Our reports here. So our reports are pretty similar right here. From 2024, we've had 20 total reports for the month, and in 25 we had 24, so it's a small increase in numbers. There are a lot of times we do make contacts. It doesn't mean that's always going to be a report. If you look at the deputy initiated activity, some of our notable calls were hit and run up by the Center Road as we come off the highway right there. One of the drivers fled from the scene, was eventually stopped. He was cited for hit and run, driver while suspended third, no vehicle insurance. We've had cold restraining orders. FaceTime petitioner with a third party contact was not allowed. There was a road rage harassment type deal. We're still working into that right now, but I don't see a lot of it coming from that. And a malicious mischief where at the clubhouse on West C Avenue, HOA president found a smashed windows, broken security light, broken handles, and there is a potential suspect. However, there is no probable cause at the time, but we have advised the HOA president of ways to prevent this by having more cameras, visibility, increasing the lights around there. And if you do have a problem, please call in and report it and let us kind of follow through with it and push on forward. Our next slide. Our traffic report. Our traffic is up. We are, for the month, we had 16 infractions with 8 criminal infractions for a total of 24. Our crew right now has just we've been trained on our radar and our LiDAR. So we're going to be running more radar on the streets now. We're waiting for our train to come through. So you will see us out there staying on the side of the road with the handheld devices. LiDAR is very accurate, and we will be issuing infractions for those exceeding the speed limits. And in our traffic report right here, in the pie version right here, it's a little bit of a breakdown. So there was, it's kind of hard to see right there. No driver's license on a person, driving while suspended. There were 6 of those, which is 24% of our calls. 1 hit and run was 4%. There were 6 speeders, which is 24%. Failed to transfer titles. There were 2 infractions on that one. Failed to renew expired registration. Operated motor vehicle without insurance. There were 3 of those, 12%. School zone infractions, we had 4 infractions at 16%. And one was a failed to seatbelt. We also had 2 handwritten infractions, which are not in our sector reports for parking violations. And so now as we've been going out to the community and we've been warning people about moving their cars and park them in the right directions and whatnot, we've tagged them, we've warned them, we've talked to the people. Now we're laying infractions on them. So those don't appear in these reports, but we've had 2 out there so far, and hopefully the community gets the idea that you can't just ignore us and close the door and walk away. We will paper your car. And lastly here, Saturday the 26th, I'm competing with you, Councilmember Leija. From 10 to 2, we're having the prescription drug take back. I'll say that correctly. It'll be right here at the precinct at 105 West 5th Street. We'll have a drive-through, drop off your prescription drugs. There's no questions asked other than the fact that, where'd you hear from us? Have you used this before? And was this helpful? So that's a little questionnaire for the state right there. We will take back the prescription drugs. We don't take back needles, vapes, any liquids of any sort, or things of that nature. So please come on by and see us on Saturday. I'll be there myself with the team, and we'll be setting up at 9, but we open at 10. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Commander. I was just going to say, is there any questions for the commander? Actually, wait a second. And you notice on the form that you get the report, it does say from the center chief, Bill Sample.
Oh.
I was trying to up my
loves
game.
that. Look at that.
I was trying to up it up. Trying to make you proud of me. Yes. Tremendous.
This was a couple weeks ago. What was the situation with the dump truck driver that drove through
like the fence? What was his situation?
I've heard about that. I don't have all the details
Okay.
on that one yet.
Okay, I
though.
was curious. Because
But-
I mean, I drove by soon after he did that, and I was just like,
Yes.
how in the world did that? I mean, it just blew my mind. And then I saw one of the officers talking to him on the sidewalk, and I'm looking at him thinking, is he, hadn't been drinking? I'm just kind of like looking at him thinking, what? 'Cause that was
I think it was pretty much inattention, right? there.
Inattention, okay.
Inattention going through.
Yeah.
And if I may add one additional comment, we did have a traffic accident right here at the roundabout on 4th Street right there. One of the Fortune Casino members had went up to go to the Shell station to get some snacks off his break. He was coming back. He started to cross the road just on the east side of the crosswalk. A female driver was coming through, a younger driver, I should say, was coming through inattention. She was traveling the speed limit and happened to hit him. He sustained substantial injuries. She was only going about 20 miles an hour. Even at 20 miles an hour, he suffered a broken jaw. He's going to need facial reconstruction. That broke his back and his pelvis is kind of messed up. So he's not paralyzed or anything, but he did sustain substantial injuries right there. So there's another reminder right there that even at 20 miles an hour, it can do quite a bit of damage to the human body in contact right there. So she was infracted for inattention while driving, but she did go through field sobriety. She had no impairments at all. There was nothing on board, so everything was good in that.
Yeah.
But he was also not in the crosswalk.
He was not in the crosswalk, so it could have been an inattention on his part also.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Well, you have to when you go into a crosswalk, you should always, as we were taught, stop and look both ways. You can't just walk through like you're looking on a phone or reading something and not pay attention to cars coming. It's a dual responsibility.
Yeah.
So
left, right, left. Like
left, right, left.
Left, right, left.
Yes, ma'am.
All the time. My second question was about radar guns. Is it in Washington? Do you have to have a front license plate? And is that what the radar gun hits to pick up speed? Is that?
Actually, you're supposed to have both plates, but it's not actually the radar gun. The LiDAR can pick up on any part of the car.
Oh, okay.
So you can aim at different areas of the car, the hood, the front fender. The license plate is a very good one to have, but you don't necessarily have to have that to have that.
So you don't legally have to have a front one, or you just said you have to have both?
You have to have both. You're supposed to have both.
You're supposed to have both.
You're supposed to have both, exactly. With the LiDAR there, it's emitting the light signal to go out to the object and respond back to you at the speed of light.
Yeah.
And actually is, yes. And that's why you don't necessarily have to have that, but you can read off of others. And the front plate's also good. We don't have them here, but the license plate readers that they have, as cars go by, it just picks up plates and you can hit stolens, other information on vehicles and whatnot. The database just collects information left and right on it. So front license plate, yes, you need to have a front license plate.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Is Clark County even prosecuting stolen cars? I don't even know if they are they?
Stolen cars?
Yeah. Are they even prosecuting offenders on that? I thought they were just.
No, we are actually, as Clark County as a whole, yes, you will get, what do I want to say, charged with possession of a stolen vehicle. As far as the prosecutors go, that's up to them doing that. And even in Clark County, we do have a new system called the Grappler on some of our larger vehicles, which people that have tried to flee from a traffic stop or whatever else, instead of trying to do a pit maneuver on them or spike their tires, the Grappler actually comes up to the car, wraps around one of the wheels hubs, and as it wraps it up, it slows the car down. And then the weight of the other vehicle, being like the Tahoe, is what they put them on. If the Tahoe slows down, it kind of counters that thrust of the other car, along with that strap being, it's like a tether being wrapped around the tire, which prevents it from driving off. So it's a lot safer alternative than to pitting a person at 50, 60 miles an hour or laying spike strips, because laying spike strips, you can spike the fleeing vehicle, but then a lot of times you might get your own cars or civilian vehicles or something else if the person's not quick enough to take the spike strip away.
All right. Any other questions for the matter? No, we do not have the Grappler in the city. Maybe the officers would like it. I heard it from them.
You should see it. It's cool.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Again, that was a great report. Next up, we have the Administrative Services Staff Report, and Mr. Pete Royce will be presenting. Peter.
Hello, City Council. Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'm going to keep this a little bit brief. I was told it's always important to council to hear about the sales tax and gambling tax. And we have the first quarter in for 2025 with sales tax. You can see we brought in $179,444. That's up about $3,000 from last quarter. So that's encouraging that the sales tax is stable at this point. I wanted to mention training in the department. Desi Allinger Nelson, our strategic specialist, has completed a couple trainings with AWC, MRSC, both for Open Public Meetings Act and Public Records Act. It's important with Desi as she's responsible for document management with the city. And I must say our document management in the city is the best I've ever seen anywhere. We have what we're required to have by law, and yeah, it's in tip-top shape. We need to keep that up. My own training is going on at this point, so I'm learning the financial software. I'm taking basically La Center 101 and learning everything I can about the policies and procedures we have in the city. And helping me with that training is the fine staff we have in the department. Every single person is firing on all cylinders. They're very capable, very efficient individuals, and they've been very, very good with entertaining my sometimes dumb questions when you're new and you need to find things out. So I appreciate them greatly. Moving on to the gambling tax. It looks like for the quarter we brought in $444,166, up from last year at $405,292 at this point. So again, we're seeing increases there, and it's an important revenue source for the city. So we'll continue to track that moving forward. I did also list the new seasonal employee, but he has already left employment, unfortunately. So he started April 17th, but unfortunately, I believe today was his last day with the city. So we'll be.
What was the issue?
We can't discuss it.
It's like scandal league.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my report for this evening. As we move forward, if council members have maybe interests in different aspects of the department that you'd like to see included in the report, please let me know. And as I learn more, I'll provide more robust reports moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Any questions for Peter? No questions? All right. Thanks again, Peter.
Yes.
Welcome to the team. This is, yeah, I think Councilmember Boyle, I don't even think you were here yet. You can't see anybody when you call in. Yeah. It's so difficult to do calls. You can't see the dice. You just can't see anything except for what's presented on the screen. So you can hear voices, but everybody's voice almost sounds the same, except for Mern's. All right. Thanks again. Next up, we do have a WSP contract amendment number 2, work for on-call planning services, contract staff report. This will be presented by Director Tracy Coleman. Director.
Mayor and council members, I'd like to start out with a couple comments before I go into this report. First thing is I wanted to let council members know that there were 3 guardrails that had been hit and runs. And so we put those out to bid and we had that work completed, and it cost the city $17,000 to replace the 3 guardrails. So I want you to know that that came out of our street budget. So just so you're aware of that. And then also we've had requests from individuals to tour our wastewater plant. We've had those in the past. So we were offering 4 different wastewater plant tours, starting April 30th, you can either do a 7:30 a.m. or 3 p.m. plant tour. Sign-up sheets are on the table as you walk in, so we encourage people if they want to take a plant tour to go ahead and do it then. The next plant tour available will be on May 14th at 7:30 a.m. or 3 p.m. You must sign the form in order to take the tour. And so those are there for tonight, and then they'll be at the front desk with Maria if you want to sign up. But you can't sign up over the phone, you have to sign up in person to take that. We have to have your name on the piece of paper itself. Any questions in regards to that?
Do you have any questions?
Okay.
You can take the tour of the wastewater system.
What's the next one? I didn't hear the question.
The sewer tour.
The wastewater plant tour is either on April 30th at 7:30 a.m. or 3 p.m. is available.
April 30th.
Or May 14th at 7:30 a.m. or 3 p.m. They're on Wednesdays.
Oh, she's got her calendar out. You've got another signing.
Yay, I'm excited to sign up on the way out.
All right.
I have the answer in regards to the restroom at the park. If you'd like me to address that now, or I can wait till the next council meeting.
Oh, the partitions? Oh, yeah,
Yes.
that'd be great.
Yes.
I'll sit here and you can hear it.
Yes, so the restrooms, they were meant for one users, and there is ADA accessibility issues with the partitions, also the way the door opens. So the first thing is it's ADA accessibility. The second thing is the way the door opens. If you had a partition there regardless, when you open the door, if you were to leave that there, you would see the front or the back side of an individual because of the way the door opens. There isn't any privacy you could put in there. If you put a partition in there, it would be ADA accessible. So that's some of the reasons why there isn't a partition in there. But if you want me to get further details or anything, I can go into that next council meeting. Just an FYI.
No, I'll stop by and take a look at it.
Yeah.
In case we can work something out.
Yeah, it's the way the door opens and the way the toilets are facing, and ADA accessibility to be able to get at the door.
Yeah, isn't there a lock on the door and because it's one use? You say the females is only one use, so I mean the males, yeah, there's a lock and so nobody can come in.
Yeah, but that's the reasoning behind that was it was ADA accessibility. That's the bottom line. The other thing is, so now when I'm going into the agenda item, which is on the staff report, this is in regards to a contract amendment for WSP, amendment number 2 for on-call planning services. And what I wanted to bring to the attention of council here is that this is on-call, this is a pass-through service. So this is for any time we have people who come to us and submit plan reviews. This is something that they help us with, and we actually bill we bill the individual that comes to us, submits a plan set. So it's just something we bring the money in and we pay it right back out. So this is a pass-through service. So the only portion of this contract amendment is about $15,000 for an entire year for the extension. So the current contract in place expires December of this year. And we started out February of this year with a contract amount of $30,000. We rapidly had to increase that to $70,000 because of all the plan reviews that came in, all the applications that have come into the city. So we have now exhausted those funds. So we're getting a lot of people applications coming through. So with that being said, we did an average calculation that said how much are we spending per month on plan reviews. So we went ahead and want to extend this contract until December of next year, so we can get through the current plans that we have been submitting, because we have some larger plan reviews being done with the hotels, so on and so forth. So they take a long time to review those. So we'd like to extend this contract through December of next year, and we increased it to $110,000. Again, $110,000 is not coming out of the city pocket. $95,000 is just a pass-through service. If we use it, we use it. If we don't, we don't. It's just based on applications that come in the door. Only $15,000 of this would be for staff support. If Angie needed specific report, specialty report, or specialty support from WSP, we'd be using $15,000 between now and the end of next year, in the next 20 months. So that's what this is about.
And where does, what budget does the 15,000 come from?
That comes from our planning budget. And then, just so you're aware as well, is that we will be going out for a request for qualifications for another contract service provider in 2026, so we meet our requirements for audit reasons.
Thank you.
How much does the service vary by use?
The service contract varies by how many applications we receive. So when I give my report and when I give that Public Works report, I tell you how many applications we have coming in. And I think last year I said we're down what we were the year before. That's how it varies. It just depends on what kind of development comes through. So when the sub-area plan and the comprehensive plan is done and we're now ready for development to come in, I project this to be much higher as far as the pass-through service because of applications that are coming in the door for people doing developments.
Any other further questions, comments, conversation amongst each other? If not, can I get a motion?
I moved to authorize approval of the extending of the on-call planning service contract with WSP in the amount not to exceed $110,000.
I second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Thank you, council. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you for the explanation and putting that packet together. It's pretty important, you guys. That was good. Okay, next up, we have the WSP contract amendment number 3, professional planning, natural resources, and engineering services staff report. Tracy Coleman will be presenting again. Tracy.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you, Mayor and council members, for approving that last one. I think it's critical for you to understand as well that WSP is well within our organization as far as the comp plan and sub-area plan. So when they're doing these reviews, they know what's coming up, and so they can help when they're doing those reviews because we're in the depth of that. So it's nice to keep them on board through the next year. So I thank you for that approval. Okay, this one is a contract amendment for WSP. It's contract amendment number 3 for the sub-area and downtown sub-area boundary expansion. If you remember last council meeting, Tony submitted a report for extending the DKS engineering contract, where we had to do that transportation analysis, which was to be able to justify for the period of the comp plan for 2025 to 2045. Remember, for 20 years, because they only had it going through 2026. You guys approved that at the last council meeting to go ahead and say, yes, we want DKS engineering to look at the traffic analysis for a 20-year period to match our comp plan and sub-area plan. So this is kind of going in line with that. But that being said, because we've been running into difficulty with our comp plan and we're working on that sub-area plan to be able to keep moving forward towards our projected growth and where we want to be, you asked me, the first question was, how much have we spent on the comp plan? So we signed a contract with WSP for the comp plan in April. I tried to give you all the details in here, April of 2023. And that original contract that we signed was for $460,000. Since then, we had amendment number 1 that we did in December of 23, and that was for $39,000 from their October submittal. And then we did another amendment number 2, which was signed in December 2024, and the amount of $6,783. So the contract was also extended from December 2024 to June of 2025 because we couldn't get the sub-area plan done in time because of some of the comprehensive plans that we were running into, some of the I don't want to say headaches, but it is a headache that we're running into with the county and amending this sub-area plan. So with that being said, this amendment number 3 is for $25,000. It's for the additional scope of work that we need to complete our sub-area plan, which includes the transportation study for the 20-year period to include the sub-area plan. And it also includes all of our capital projects that we actually have in our comprehensive plan, because we don't know where our comprehensive plan are going. We're adding those to the sub-area plan so we can adopt it to our current comprehensive plan and be able to move forward because we don't know where this comprehensive plan is going. So we're asking them include the capital projects in there so we can move forward with our REIT funding and our downtown sub-area improvements, and we can also go for grants. So that's what we're asking them. We asked them to do this work. They came back to us and said, we'll do it for $25,000, which is actually a 5% increase to the total contract amount. So to date, if you approve this, we will have spent over $500,000, $531,929 for the entire sub-area plan contract. I hope I explained that well to you. If you have any questions, let me know.
And how much money have we gotten back from those in grants or whatever to help cover some of this?
That is a great question. I just signed that paperwork. I don't know it exactly. It seems to me, I don't know the answer to that. I would have to send that out to an email because I don't want to state.
If you could, I think that'd be great for council to see that because we do get some money back.
And
I was gonna say, is there a,
well, it was for, I'm trying to think. So it was for the environmental study for our comprehensive plan. We had a grant for that. We also just sent a letter of interest out to extend the grant to get additional dollars in case in case Clark County comes back to us and states that you need to redo this comprehensive plan and we have to move further with that environmental impact. So we actually are applying for additional grant funding because they've opened that up because of what's going on with Clark County. So we actually have a letter of interest in for them. And I'm sorry, I keep saying Cowlitz County, I apologize.
I'm gonna start charging you a quarter like the kids do me.
My payroll will be done. But so anyway, with that being said, we are going out for additional grant funds. It seems to me it was something to the effect of $50,000. We've been reimbursed for $35,000 at this point.
Well, and Brian Cass, a lot of the stuff he's been doing was also under a grant as well, right?
Yes, he was part of that. That's correct. As his consulting services, yes.
So if you can explain the repercussions of not passing this amendment, Tracy, to get the full impact of that would be great.
So if you don't pass the amendment, then we won't be able to have the additional work done to the sub-area plan that they're currently working on, meaning that we would not be able to include the capital projects and we would not be able to include the 20-year transportation plan that DKS that we already approved for them to do, to include that now in this sub-area plan to move forward, since we're not sure what's going on with the comprehensive.
And then the grants.
That you can't apply for grants if you don't have documentation adopted in your current comprehensive plan. So the sub-area plan will get adopted into the current comprehensive plan that we have on file right now, and it will allow us to go for the grants that we have and spend the funding that we want to spend on the projects.
And the reason I'm asking Tracy to say this, council, it's not to scare you. I just want you guys to understand the impact of not going through with this, right? This is a very hard spot, right? By not moving forward with this amendment to the bill or the services. So I just wanted you guys to be with it. So if you guys have any questions for Tracy, that'd be great. Or any conversations amongst each other. Boy, that got crickets.
I'm thinking.
I think we need to start with some Jeopardy music after it goes silent like that after something. Yeah. If there are no questions or conversation or comments amongst each other, can I get a motion?
I move to authorize approval of increasing the sub-area plan contract with WSP by $25,000.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Thank you, council.
Still mad at the county, I don't like GMA.
Well, Kimberly's,
I'm never with you.
she's gonna vote for you, I can tell you that. All right, then I have to agree with you on that one, Counselor. Okay, we do have a resolution tonight. Resolution 485, right-of-way vacation at Junction. Mr. Brian Cast will be presenting. That's a voice you haven't heard for a while, and he is blind. Brian, you with us?
I am here. Can you hear me all right?
all the way from Puerto Rico.
Well, good to see you all again here. So before you this evening is a resolution to initiate another right-of-way vacation, this time on La Center Road. As council may have heard, we are in the process of entering into an agreement with Minute Management, who is the developer of the Shell Station and some of the other projects there on the north side of La Center Road. And a portion of this agreement is a right-of-way exchange. The city is proposing to vacate about 350 square feet of right-of-way that the Shell Station needs in exchange for them dedicating approximately the same amount, 350 square feet, at the intersection there of La Center Road and Paradise Park Road that will help with the roundabout that is under design currently at that intersection. So if you recall from the other few right-of-way vacations we've done here recently, there is a process that we have to follow that's laid out in Chapter 3579 of this RCW. And the first step is this resolution to begin the vacation process and to set a time for a public hearing to consider the right-of-way vacation. So Resolution 485 as proposed will set the public hearing at the next council meeting on May 14th. And that same council meeting, we will also have the agreement with Minute Management coming before council prior to this, so that you'll be able to see, all that goes into that, and that will be passed prior to the vacation process moving forward. The agreement also has stipulations in there that the vacation and dedication process sort of have to happen at the same time. So if one doesn't happen, then this vacation won't happen. As far as budget impact, staff is recommending not requesting compensation for the value of the right-of-way, since it is sort of a equal value and area swap in this case. State law does allow that, as we've talked about before, but in this case, since they are dedicating the same amount and we need that area for a project, our staff recommendation is, and what we will be bringing forward, subject to any feedback from council, obviously, is just a no value exchange for this property. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions before the council considers passing Resolution 485.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian. I do appreciate you calling in and taking care of this for us.
Sure.
Council, is there any questions or comments? It's pretty cut and dry, right?
Yeah, it is. Are we trading red for blue? Or which way is it?
So we are.
Yeah, so the red is what we are going to be giving up to them, and the blue is what they are going to be giving to us. The right-of-way currently does like a weird little jog there, and so it kind of works out. It's just sort of two equal triangles that we're swapping. And again, that sort of dark blue area there gives us a little bit more room for the roundabout that's under design right now. And the red area happens to work out well for a sign for the gas station.
Are we gonna have to mow it or pull weeds?
Say that again, please.
Are we gonna have to mow it or pull weeds?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to mow it maybe.
With this new right-of-way that we be obtaining, is it going to affect the traffic going through their drive-through space at all?
It shouldn't. Again, just west of this property swap, the right of way, you can see in that dashed sort of line there is narrower. So for whatever reason, when this intersection was reconfigured and the Cowlitz, constructed the interchange there was this sort of widened section there. And we're kind of just continuing the existing width on there sort of straight, so that it, instead of jogging out and then kind of jogging back in, it just sort of continues along straight there.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 485 to set the public hearing on the vacation of a portion of La Center Road for May 14th, 2025.
Second.
It's been moved second and third. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes, or resolution passes. Thank you, council. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate the hard work you put into getting that taken care of. And I know that was a project that we have been working on for 2 years now. That's
Yeah,
your
something like that.
speed of
No
work,
problem,
right?
and we'll be bringing this back at the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. We'll see, we'll hear from you then. Thanks again, Brian. Okay, council, is there any unfinished business? No. All right, any new business?
No.
And we do have an executive session on the agenda tonight. This will be to discuss real estate, and there will be a motion when we return. Just so you know, if you guys want to stick around or head home, we understand. I would like, at this time, it is 8:07. This should take about 15 minutes, in the executive session. So at 8:07, I would like us to enter executive session. Thank you. Janine will call you.
We're gonna walk.
The audience know that we will be extending executive session for 5 minutes.
All the money in the bag.
Anybody there? I can't hear anything. We're home. It's okay. Oh, what was I don't know.
Are you just gonna leave it there?
For the night, and then I'm gonna unload it and let it sun dry tomorrow or something.
Only get the truck when we're done, so that
It's fine.
what's?
I
have to hook up a cord.
No, it comes out down to here. It's just fine right here. It gives me a little access to where I need to be. I thought you already said it did. Yeah. Did I not credit good enough?
Did Tom get ahold of you?
No.
He called. Maybe 20 minutes after our note. Like that. I said, no.
Somebody on the.
Okay, at 8:30 p.m., we have now exited the executive session. As I stated earlier, that there would be a motion taken after discussion with the council. There will be no motion taken tonight. Sorry, Alan. You know what? You and Frank.
Did you hear that?
You and Frank waited this whole time. I appreciate it very much. But we are not taking.
Just what it is.
So at this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Thank you, council. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Realize how much mud we got for work session.
We'll see you later.
Yeah.
I like Steve because of you, Tracy. That was going to be a